What's up, Internet? How was your weekend? Mine was okay. Okay. So last night I did the watch party and wasted 4 hours. That was a shit show. And then the gummies started kicking in. I took my gummies about 30 minutes into it, and then gummies did what gummies do. So maybe that was just me, and I was just too high to be. But it was just weird. My dog started licking his nuts real loud and wouldn't stop. So I was trying to get Ozzy to stop. It was just weird. So check it out if you want. But it was a weird one. I may even take it down. I think I'm gonna give up on the whatever watch parties. Just not a lot of traffic watching them, and everybody's watching whatever. So till y'all give a shit, nah, I probably won't do it no more until Andrew comes back. I might start doing it when Andrew comes back, but it's just too fucking boring, man. Brian is just letting these women get away with murder, just murder. Uh, so uh, today we're gonna do Lauren Chen. I love these. I love the Covert Feminist ones. I didn't really see a lot in this one. I watched a little bit of it. I couldn't really get into it, but I know he does kind of hammer a little bit at the end, but I think he took it easy on her because he was trying to get her to do a debate with somebody else and he wanted to moderate it. So I think he kind of didn't go as hard on her as he did on Tommy Lahren and some of the other girls. But it's still good, and it still points out that she's still not fully on board. So let's dive into it and see. And afterwards, I've got another debate where Lauren Chin was debating Andrew's wife, Rachel Wilson, and Pearl Davis on Timcast. I'm going to show that one at the end, just to kind of round out and show that they're not always just because they're saying conservative things doesn't mean they believe conservative things. It's kind of like Bill Maher, right? They can say something that makes sense every once in a while, but they still believe a lot of bullshit too. That's my point. So let's dive into it and check out Lauren Chin versus Andrew Wilson. Oh, I gotta take this down. I'm so bad at this. Here we go.
Okay, thank you guys. I think we're all cut up there. Okay, so let's talk about what the red pill is and what I view as the problems with red pill. So I view the red pill as kind of an offshoot or something that developed from maybe earlier MGTOW or manosphere types. So a lot of the complaints center around inequality before the courts and family law specifically benefiting women. I don't disagree there, but you mentioned yourself that they can be degenerate. And when I look at someone like the Fresh and Fit guys who do talk about, like, they encourage promiscuity among men, that's not something that I support.
Yeah, but again, this is a detailed problem with your worldview. So let me dive right into this as well. These are secularists, and these secularist men are trying to help secularists.
Let me pause real quick. If you are commenting, I can't see them. So today, I don't know why StreamYard's not letting me show the comments on screen. So if you are commenting, I apologize. I can't see them until after the show. So I don't know what that's about, but I'll look into that after. Let's move on.
Men. The Christians are supposed to be coming in with solutions to these issues, and what happens is, like you, they have actual contradictions inside of their worldview, so these guys don't want to listen to them. What you guys say is, oh, hey, just roll the dice, and hopefully you'll get lucky, and maybe you won't marry one of these horrible women. What is the actual Christian prescription? So then tell me, Lauren, what is the actual Christian prescription to hypergamy in society from women and mate selection? What is the actual solution that you have from a Christian ethic that you can give these guys that's better than what Fresh and Fit gives them?
I don't have a problem with hypergamy.
Yeah, that's not my question. My question is, if you believe in monogamy because you're a Christian, but women are not acting in a monogamous way inside society, which they're not, what is the prescription that you're going to give to men? There's not enough women to go around who are virtuous for the virtuous men.
How do you consider yourself conservative and not have a problem with female hypergamy, though? Like, doesn't that cause problems for your worldview, like everyone else's worldview? If 100% of the women are only having sex with 10% of the guys, doesn't that represent some kind of problem for you as a Christian?
Prescription are you going to give to the secularists? Do you even have one? You don't have one, right?
Well, no, I think the the solution is to do things like change family court, like absolutely change the law surrounding divorce. I think a lot of men, even if they are secularists, would feel better going into a marriage if they didn't think that there was such a good chance that they absolutely lose everything in the divorce. And I also think that you say that there's not enough good women to go around. I think that's true. And in my video talking about the women and the right, I believe a lot of this stems from a lack of leadership from men in the church. I think there should be a lot of churches, they prioritize gynocentrism, female sensibilities over actual male leadership. And I think that's a problem. And I think if we were to let the
This
church
doesn't answer the
flourish in that
question.
way,
What is the actual prescription that you can give to men right now who are facing down the barrel of marriage, right? Where you have a state contract in a secular way. These guys are speaking to secular men. You're the Christian who's trying to convert them. What's the actual prescription that you're going to give these guys when it comes to marriage? What is it, Lauren?
Well, I think you pointed out that any prescription when it comes to marriage, if you're talking to a secularist, should be to follow Christ, because anything less than that is not a marriage.
Oh, and they go, yeah, but I don't want to do that. What I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to,
Yeah, that really works. You just insert Christ into everything. That'll convince everybody. No, everybody doesn't want to hear about Christ when we're talking about sex. Sometimes Christ doesn't need to be involved in this discussion.
have sex with a bunch of hot chicks and then never tie myself down with the state. That makes a lot more sense. Can you actually tell me why that's illogical from a secular progressive state? I can't actually think of how it's illogical for a man who's a secularist to say, I don't want to get married in the current sphere. The women are not virtuous. And instead, I'm just going to go out and I'm going to have tons and tons of sex. And that's it. Why is that actually problematic from that stance? Doesn't it seem like it's good advice for fresh?
If your problem with women is that too many of them have slept around, etc., then I don't think you need to be a Christian to recognize that by continuing to sleep with these women, you are exacerbating the problem.
So you're going to go home and not have sex just so that more women aren't having sex? They're all doing it anyway. You can't. What is that one guy going to do? He's going to affect the way women date on the internet as a whole? That's a big work for one guy.
Unless you're
that would be contrary to hypergamy. Hypergamy is actually stating the opposite within the red pill thought process. They're actually stating the opposite, that most men cannot sleep with X amount of women. Most of them cannot. Most women can sleep with whatever guy they want. Most guys cannot sleep with whatever woman they want. So it would actually be the opposite within their sphere. So they're telling men, actually, you're probably not going to be able to do this thing. However, here's self-improvement you can do, which would improve your chances of mate selection and things like this. From a secular standpoint, how in the world could they possibly be wrong? What are you offering? This is the question. What are you offering from the Christian church, from the Christian perspective, to combat these ideas, Lauren? What are you actually showing them?
Well, once more,
females' issues with the red pill boil down to this. The red pill talks about what is, and just dealing with that is, just dealing with the way things are in society. It's a data set that just tells you, little pieces of information. That's all it is. And they have a big issue with it because women like to deal in what we think things are, our feelings. And that's a direct contradiction to what the red pill teaches. The red pill teaches you to use this information to get a better result for yourself. That's all it is.
You talk about the fact that, well, they're offering self-improvement so that men can improve their chances for mate selection. I will maintain, if you are a man who believes that promiscuity amongst women, sleeping with men who they are not married to, is a problem, you cannot engage in that same behavior while complaining about the problem. You are exacerbating the problem.
Yeah, but most of the...
Why not? If I go to the grocery store and the eggs are expensive, I have to buy eggs, but I'm going to bitch about how expensive the eggs are. That's just human nature.
Those men are not exacerbating the problem. This is not a male problem. This would be a woman problem when it comes to hypergamy. If most of the women are sleeping with a select few men, how's that a man's issue? That would be a woman's issue. And again, you still have not answered the question from the church, from the Christian perspective. What would you do to solve that?
Well, I think what we need to do to solve that is when it comes to things like, sex outside of wedlock, as a church, we have like the Christian church has failed in enforcing those moral standards. I mean, and it's true. How many, if you think about like church singles groups or even just general services, how many of them talk about something like sex within marriage specifically? It's not a popular concept. It's not something that I think a lot of church leaders, quote, think is a winning topic. But because of that, even amongst people within the church, like that's a problem.
The
That's absolutely
no, okay. Well, here, I'll give you this solution because that's a non-solution. That's just literally prattle. You didn't say anything.
Woman prattle.
Here's the actual solution.
Okay, I'll let you continue. But
go ahead.
What I've said there is that the church should absolutely be pushing to enforce those moral standards, preaching those moral standards.
Which church?
Christian churches, like the
with a lady pastor. Sure.
Church is the body of Christ.
Yeah, but the problem is that within Protestantism, you have so many different denominations, so many of them which embrace feminism, LGBTQ, this type of thing. They have no unified message. Only the traditional churches, Orthodoxy and Catholicism, do. That's it. That's why the Muslims have become.
I don't know too much about Catholicism anymore either.
So popular where they're at when they're pushing traditional values. That's the reason why. So I can tell you how you can actually make a lifeline to these guys if you actually want to bring them over to your side. If you really want to understand how you can fix this problem, you fix the problem with a move to patriarchy. That's the thing red pillars will embrace, a move to patriarchal systems. That's what Christianity can offer to the secularists, which bring them over to our side, a move to patriarchy. Because absent patriarchy, what has happened?
Churches need to embrace that.
Yeah, but they have no ecclesiastical authority. Because there's no ecclesiology, they can't do it. Protestant churches can't do it. They don't have the necessary ecclesiology in order to move into a patriarchal system. They don't have any reference for marriage. They don't have any laws or bylaws regarding marriage. They have no laws or bylaws regarding anything. Whereas the traditional churches do have that ecclesiastical authority. That's why the traditional Abrahamic
How do you move towards it anyway when you have a pastor with purple hair?
religions do so well, and why Protestantism does not do so well. And so hang on, I'm almost done. When you're making the advocation for this, the reason that you have a pro-feminist stance without even knowing it is because if you want to solve the problem on the red pill side and the Christ pill side, the one unifier that you have is a patriarchy, patriarchal systems. They will agree with that and you can move them out of that. But just telling them, oh no, just be monogamous, that doesn't do anything for them because who are the women left? They get the leftovers to be monogamous with. That's what they get.
All right. Well, I mean, when it comes to things like divorce within the Catholic Church, at least if we're going with nominal Catholics, it is still high, unfortunately.
Depends on the country. That's one. Yeah. And there's influencers which happen inside of Western nations, especially due to feminism. In Orthodoxy, the rates are very, very, very low. Also, Orthodoxy offers the ecclesiastical authority and the requisite to get married outside of the state. It's not a requirement because these are sacraments. These are messages which you can give to actual red pillars to move them over to Christ. What you can't tell them to do, though, is, hey, take the big.
I want you boys to notice how well she's taking this, though. She is a much better covert feminist than Deborah Ray or Millennial Millie. That when they start arguing and fighting and digging their heels in and just trying to be right when they're not, it makes it so much worse. She did a fucking outstanding job at like just rolling with it. She didn't buck up and try and fight him on it. She just kind of took it and it went much smoother for her. That's a lesson some of these covert feminists need to learn from her. She does a really good job of just kind of rolling with it and not getting all, bad bitch and trying to mix it up with them. That's a bad thing to do.
Big risk and the big gamble because Jesus would really like it if you did. That's insane messaging.
That's not my position, by the way, to take the risk and the gamble, to just roll the dice. I absolutely don't think that's a good idea for men to do. And I think that there are definitely things that you can do that would reduce your likelihood of getting divorced. I don't think you should just roll the dice. Absolutely not.
Well, then what is your prescription other than a move to patriarchy?
I don't think a move to patriarchy is not part of that answer. Again, I said that even in regard to the church, but I also think that there are certain mate selections that you can do that do have a statistical likelihood at reducing your chances of divorce, right? Socioeconomic status of married couples has an outcome. It affects your likeliness of divorce.
Yeah, but it also affects the outcome of you having children. because you have them later in life because of family planning. And so what ends up happening is it's the poor and the downtrodden and those who reject materialism who are going to inherit the earth because they're the only ones who are breeding. It's actually bad advice to tell people to wait until later in life to get married because you're going to destroy the chance of them having more children.
I'm not telling people to wait later in life to get married, but I think there's sometimes the willingness to believe that there is one likelihood of divorce and that it's a roll of the dice no matter what the circumstances are, which is patently not true. And there's a big differential, even if you look at between different races, of the likelihood of divorce. The black divorce rate, I think,
that's because different races embrace different types of ecclesiastical authority inside of their churches. Namely, some of them have none. And that's why when the church effectively had some sort of body to it inside of black communities, you did not see these divorce rates nearly as high, because they had a more traditional foundation for what it was that they were going for. That's all destroyed. But when you're talking about the entailment of what you just said, though, of, hey, your likelihood for divorce drastically is going to reduce if you have, these different socioeconomic statuses, an entailment of that is going to be that they wait till later to get married. That, in turn, is going to cause us to have less children, which exacerbates the birth rate crisis. These, again, not a great position.
Well, the thing is, when people look at the likelihood of divorce dropping, we're basically talking about IQ here, and bell curve talks about this. Your likelihood of getting divorced is greatly higher if your IQ is lower, and socioeconomic status is kind of like it represents that. And so, if you are a man, absolutely trying to find a woman who is not low IQ, therefore has better impulse control, it is going to reduce your likelihood of getting a divorce. Now, does that simultaneously mean that you have to wait until you're 30 to get married and maybe 35 to have kids?
I'm 50 and I'm still looking for a smart woman. Help me out.
No, I think those are two different things.
The high IQ people are not having children.
Yeah, which is a problem. And I want them to have children.
Yeah, but if you want them to have children, then you have to embrace patriarchy, because we want the smart mothers to stay at home and raise their children. We don't want them in the workforce, literally frying their brains on behalf of their boss. We want the really high IQ women. We want the really high IQ women at home raising children to make the next generation of high IQ children. Otherwise, they're wasted. They're wasted in the marketplace. Move to patriarchy is the only answer to this. That's the only way that this can actually be done in a structured way. You can't incentivize them with money. There's no way to incentivize people with money to have children. The poorest among us are the ones who have the children now.
You can incentivize me. I'll do it for money.
So financial incentives are not going to work for this.
I've long said the idea that the reason why women aren't having children is because of cost is ridiculous. And it's not just the poor in this country who have more children than the rich, but also if we look at a global scale, the places where there's the least economic development, they tend to have the most. It is absolutely a choice that people are making. Now, does that simultaneously mean that I don't think concerns over affordability are, we shouldn't talk about them? No, but I don't think that is the core issue of why
that's a materialist position. It's a materialist position. You having a family should not have anything to do with materialism. It should have to do with the relationship and the sacrament between yourself and Jesus Christ, and the submission of your wife to your patriarchal authority and your ability to raise children, even in meager settings. Some of the best people come out of the worst poverty situations. It's not a bar for having a family. The messaging that can come from Christianity only can cross this threshold and Rubicon with the red pill if we have an embrace of patriarchy. That's it. It's the only way. I still haven't actually heard any descriptors of the red pill that you disagree with. What are they?
Well, I told you it's the push for the promiscuity, because we also have an overlap with what seems to be the pickup artist mentality, where we have people like Fresh and Fit going on sugar baby sites, right, and sleeping with all of these women.
Yeah, the push towards promiscuity is something which I push back on more than most, but that's not red pill. Just because you're a pickup artist, think of the red pill as a data packet. Inside of the data packet is a ton of information. You can utilize it how you see fit. Can you utilize it for the purposes of nefarious manipulation? Yes. Can you also utilize it for the purposes of help building men up and men's advocacy? Yes. You can't lay at the feet of the red pill the fact that some pickup artists and some people push towards promiscuity. That's not a red pill ideology. Red pill is simply information. That's it. It's descriptive truths which are given out into the ethos, and you can do what you want with those descriptive truths. I've not actually ever heard, and I've been on Fresh and Fit, and I have tangled with Myron on this. And he has told me to my face, yes, it's degenerate behavior. Yes, promiscuity is bad. Yes, promiscuity should be rejected if we had a moral society. Andrew, what are Christians going to do to reach out in order to make sure we have a moral society again? In this case, when I ask you, right, you are telling the degens to get married, which is insane, right?
That's not my prescription to have a more moral society, is to just get married. That's absolutely not it.
It was it. I caught you in a contradiction on it already. That you're advocating as bad a sin as they are. What is the distinction between them saying go have sex unmarried with a bunch of people and you saying no, get married secularly, absent a sacrament? You're both advocating for the same exact thing, Lauren.
It's not the same exact thing. Even if we just look at the consequentialist. And again, I think you're right. Actually,
you're not a consequential.
From Andrew's perspective, a marriage that doesn't have the sacrament is just the same as like regular sex when you're a secularist.
Secular
you're
marriage.
A Christian.
But if we look at the outcomes, you can't say that the outcome is the same where you're sleeping with one person for the rest of your life versus you're sleeping with all of these other people. That's actually not the same. It's not
wait.
in terms of the outcome.
But it's still degeneracy on both sides. If they're getting married absent a sacrament, right, they're still degenerates. And if they're promiscuous, they're still degenerates. You're both advocating for degeneracy. You're both just doing it in different ways. And that's why guys like me exist, to push back on these ideologies, because it's nuts. It's actually crazy.
Well, I think, again, I will say you're right about the civil marriage thing, and I will thank you for elucidating that for me. That's totally fine. But I think even if we look at purely from a secular standpoint, with the acknowledgement that a civil marriage is not a sacramental marriage, and therefore is sinful, if we look at the outcomes of things like promiscuity involving multiple partners, then we have children being born out of wedlock.
You still have them being born out of wedlock. Your prescription also would have children being born out of wedlock.
Yeah, but to multiple baby mamas and things like that, which is objectively worse.
Okay, so now you're consequentialist again. Now you're consequentialist.
Hang on. And if we look at the outcomes like poverty, think like abuse, there is a difference between a secular married couple versus just sleeping with a bunch of women. There's a difference.
Okay. So just to get this right, I get it. You're advocating for degeneracy light. Got it. Like, does that I don't know how that makes it better that you advocate for degeneracy light
I'm not
instead of
I'm not
tons of degeneracy
for that marriage in the first place, but I can still recognize that the outcomes are different, and one is measurably worse than the other.
Yeah, but the outcomes, you're not a consequentialist. Christians don't follow consequentialism. While it's true we can look at outcomes, you're supposed to be following virtues and the teachings of Jesus Christ, not of what the consequences of your higher duties are. If you were a consequentialist and a Christian, that would be absent the Christian ethic and the Christian ethos, period. And it doesn't even follow with the logos. None of this follows, Lauren. None of it follows.
But so you're saying that these red pill men are secular, therefore we have to speak to them in terms of a secular language, what the pros and the cons are. There is still a secular argument to be made for why you should not be sleeping with a bunch of women, like one night stands and pickup artist style. There's still a secular argument.
Yeah, sure.
To be made
You can make that.
Why that is worse.
You can make that secular argument, but here's the thing: it's not enough to destroy their worldview if you can't offer them one that's better. And what they hear is hypocrisy, and what they hear is nonsense. What they hear is you saying, hey, the best thing that you can do is get married, in spite of the fact that my values say that you're not even really married. That these are insane positions which are put together in order to attack the red pill who's just trying to give descriptive truths. I'm not saying that their prescriptions are great. That's where you get into some of the pickup artist stuff. Most of them don't make prescriptions, though. Rollo calls it a praxeology. It's not, but he calls it a praxeology. These different people have different names for it, but they're just trying to give descriptive claims for how the world actually works. And all I see is you beating the hell out of them and kissing the ass of former prostitutes like Nala and kissing the ass of all of these women and saying, how dare you? How dare you, Pearl Davis? How dare you, Andrew Wilson, say that you think that, oh, I don't know, maybe this chick who had sex with hundreds of men on film has done absolutely nothing to show the fruits or in any way really repent or show any remorse for this, how dare you not kiss their ass? Yeah, that's a losing message. It's a losing message.
I'm not saying that anyone needs to kiss Nala's ass. I'm just saying that as Christians, we cannot make a judgment as to whether or not she has been saved. And it is possible that she has been saved. That's my position on Nala.
That wasn't
I
just your position. Your position in your video was also to attack people like Pearl Davis, who is the only one, was the only one out of you sea of harpies, that's my words, okay, who wasn't kissing this woman's ass. She was the only one who actually didn't get on her knees and kiss this prostitute's ass because she got dunked at heresychurch.com. The only one.
So it sounds like when you say that she just got dunked at heresychurch.com, do you believe that you don't believe that Nala has been saved? Do you believe it's possible that she has been?
Of course, I would not make a claim to the salvation, but what I would say is I would definitely not be attacking creators like Pearl Davis, who are pointing out that, hey, you Christians should not be running to embrace this. You Christians should not be running to say that, hey, this is necessarily even a good thing that she's doing the testimony roadshow and look how saved I am. That is the opposition of the Christian ethic. She was the only one in a whole sea of you women who came after her, who stood her ground and said no. That's respectable.
Specifically said that Jesus isn't going to save these hoes. I think
Holes.
Jesus can save some of them. I think he will save some
Not
of them.
save
Now,
them
does
from the
that say
consequence
that
of their
he's saying-
actions. That's what she means by that. Not that they can't find salvation through Jesus Christ, but that Jesus isn't going to save them from the consequences of their actions. They're not. You can't use Christianity.
You mean in a world like, because obviously if Jesus saves them, it is from the consequences of their actions, their sinfulness on a spiritual level. But you mean
I'm talking about in the world,
terms of
yes.
dating.
Yeah, in the
Yeah,
world.
no, I agree.
That's her point.
That's not something I disagree with. Like the idea, and I've said this online. I've said this multiple times. Nala, she's
What
not
she means
owed,
is, I'll just frame it the best way I can. Jesus can save these hoes' soul, okay? But men are not going to be able to save these hoes in the world. And women are not going to be able to save these hoes in the world. And it sure would be nice if some of them actually faced the consequences for their actions, were held to account without a what about the Mendo argument from commentators like you, Lauren.
What do you mean? What about the men don't?
Because what about the Mendo? Every time that we get into these discussions, and we even in this discussion / debate that we're having right now, almost every single time we bring up the female promiscuity issue, you bring it right back to men. You call the men the hoe makers. You call the men the people who are responsible. You did. You said the red pillars are exacerbating the same issue they rage against. The thing is interesting here is when you're talking about hypergamy, that would actually be in opposition to your point. That's point one. And then point two is that while there are homemakers inside of these red pill spaces, most of them are feminists. And most of the debates I do with these red pillars, I prove that they're feminists because they embrace the ethic of destroying patriarchy for the purpose of degeneracy. But it's not a men's problem here. This is a woman's problem.
I very much I disagree that I don't think that the problem is also amongst women and the women's promiscuity. I've done who knows how many videos at this point talking about promiscuity specifically amongst.
She just said earlier she has no issues with hypergamy. So keep that in mind.
Women, including women who do OnlyFans. I very much believe that this is, I mean, women are the gatekeepers of sex historically. So
that's a red pill talking point.
Yeah, it's a correct talking point.
All of the descriptors are mostly correct. I still haven't actually heard what you've done is conflated red pill with pickup artists. I haven't actually heard a single criticism of the red pill.
So you seem to, when we talk about even like feminists or red pill, you're like, this is specifically what the, like, I guess what the most basic belief structure that each one of them holds. Therefore, anything absent that, that's not really feminism. That's not really red pill.
No, I'm not giving you a no true Scotsman fallacy. I can explain. You're trying to move into a no true Scotsman fallacy, and that's not what I'm saying.
No. That's not what I'm doing.
Welcome, Kung Fu Grasshopper.
Let me finish.
Okay.
So I'm taking the position of this is what the movements exist as. Like the feminist movement. This is what the feminist movement represents. These are what feminists argue for. This is what the red pill movement represents. These are what, and again, like I specifically will talk about people like Pearl Davis because I will fully acknowledge that I don't follow people like Rollo Tomasi, or I'm sure there's other ones who are part of it that I don't follow. Like, this is what Red Pill as a movement has brought.
What has it brought?
Well, I think if we're talking about the Red Pill movement, there's absolutely the idea and that male promiscuity should be excused or is not as bad as female promiscuity.
And what is your evidence for this?
This is something, well, I'm talking specifically about people like Pearl Davis, like Myron.
No, Pearl Davis nor Myron say this. Here's what they say. They give a descriptor. This is the problem, right? You don't know what you're talking about on these issues. The descriptor, I'm going to tell you the descriptor.
That it's not the same when a man
It's not,
cheats
and
as
here's
when a
why.
man cheats.
The descriptor here is true. Here's the descriptor. The descriptor is that promiscuity in society is not punished by women towards men because of hypergamy. However, it is punished by men towards women, meaning the value set due to our ontology, which is different, right? Women seem to not be as upset by male promiscuity as men get by female promiscuity. This is objectively true. We have all of the data you could possibly imagine proving that this is true. Women seem to not care so much. Now, this could have something to do with
This all boils down to she's just mad at the data sets. She's mad at what the data reveals. So she's taking it out on the red pillars who are just pointing it out.
penetrative act, because if you look at homosexuality, for instance, both sides seem to be they have a disgust reaction to this. It could be due to the penetrative nature. I'm not exactly sure why this exists as a descriptive truth, but it is descriptively true. That is their point. Their point is not whether or not this behavior is good for men. Most red pillars say that promiscuity for men is not a good thing, in fact. But that doesn't mean that the descriptive truth that is viewed differently between the sexes isn't true, because it is. It most definitely is.
But then, so you come along and say Pearl actually means XYZ. Let me explain it. This is not what Pearl is saying when she is online, when she is tweeting out. This is a very different thing, and this is where I think Pearl shoots.
She knows what Pearl means.
Herself in the foot a lot, because I don't know if she's engagement farming to try to like say things in the most provocative way possible, but she does not say that men and women, or she does not just say that, oh, cheating is viewed differently from men as it is women, therefore whatever. She will actually say that it's not a big deal if a man cheats. Like,
No.
just that
But
statement.
what happens, and Pearl also clarified this, and I even have the tweets of her clarifying this.
This is all because women are followers. They see that all the other women are fucking that guy and they think, yeah, I want to fuck him too. And men are more of leaders. They don't really get into that. I don't want to fuck a girl just because everybody's already fucked her. I only want to fuck her because she's pretty. Men don't follow like that, but women do. They're like lemmings. They'll just do whatever all the other women are doing.
She's clarified it a million times. But what happens is, because you have a character limitation, what people do, and it's a leftist game, they take what is said out of context. They portray that as a position of Pearl Davis, even though she's clarified it 100 times, that promiscuity for men is not good. However, it is more understandable in society because they're not punished for it by women the same way women are punished for it by men. This operates under incentives. That's that's showing you an incentive difference.
But I think she's also, she's leading her her audience down the wrong path, because you'll have men like Matt Walsh and Michael Knowles who argue for marriage very strongly.
Yeah, that's right. They argue for secular marriage and have the same contradiction you do, which is why the red pill doesn't take them seriously.
Can I finish?
Yeah, go ahead.
She'll look at someone like Matt Walsh and Michael Knowles and say, like, well, your marriages aren't representative because you are the X%, so you can't translate your experience universally toward men. It's like, okay, but simultaneously she will just say it's not as big of a deal for men to cheat. If you look at a lot of women in their relationships with their husbands, with their boyfriends, they will absolutely think that is a big deal if they cheat. Now, if you're saying like, oh, well, the top 1%, their wives who might be trophy wives are not going to think it as big of a deal. They're going to turn the other cheek. Well, Pearl is doing the exact same thing that she accuses Matt Walsh and Michael Knowles of doing, trying to apply the standards for the top 0.1% to the average male in the dating pool or in the marriage pool.
This is insane. This is insane framing, because you want to point out hypocrisy where it doesn't exist. Matt Walsh and the Tradcons suffer from the exact same contradiction that you do, which is to give a green light to secularists to get married, which is degenerate in and of its own nature, is a degenerate, non-sacramental act. It is not a Catholic act. It is not an Orthodox act for secularists to engage in this kind of degeneracy in society and then wrap it up in a bow with a state contract. That's insanity. Not only that, but none of these guys actually are willing to debate the issues with any of these people. Rollo Tomasi, Myron, all of these different red pillars have done a call out to debate with the Daily Wire people on this particular issue because they're hang on, because they're straw man so heavily, and none of them will do it. Not one. So that
Daily Wire don't take debates they're going to lose.
tells me, right, at least you
Ask Nick Fuentes.
like, I have some respect for you, at least, Lauren, because you showed up to do the debate. I mean, kudos to you. Great. At least we had it. These guys won't even show up to a debate. We had it all set up with Myron Gaines. We had it all set up on whatever. We've had it set up a dozen times to take these guys to task on their absurd criticisms of what is considered the red pill, and they refuse to even show up. Instead, they go into a smoke-filled cigar room and film each other kissing each other's asses and talking about how great it is that they want secular people to get married. Oh, wow, we've really won the culture war now, Lauren.
Well, I mean, to be fair to them, like, I'm not a Daily Wire employee. I'm not a fan of the Daily Wire as a whole. I like Matt Walsh and Michael Knowles, though. But Andrew Klavan and Michael Knowles have both sat down with Pearl specifically. They have had those conversations. I'm not saying that they shouldn't have further ones.
Yeah, Klavan got destroyed by Pearl Davis, who's not even a good debater. Yeah, I can't even tell you how badly it would go for the Daily Wire guys to have guys like me who I'm not even a red pillar. I just don't straw man their position. Same thing, Rollo Tomasi, Myron Gaines, all of these guys, they would absolutely obliterate them. And that's why they hide, because they don't have prescriptions to these problems. And that's a big problem if you're out there advocating for Christianity. And what ends up happening is we all look stupid. We get pummeled. These guys in their spaces laugh at us, and I don't blame them.
Do you think that there exists a way for, I guess, there are secular adjustments to marriage that the red pill community would look at and think, you know, you're right, this does change my view of marriage and whether I should get married?
Repeat the question. I want to make sure I get it correct.
So do you think that there are secular changes to civil marriages? And again, I'll say it all the day long. You are right about secular marriages. I have no problems, like, you know, W for you. You're right. But do you think that there are secular changes that would make secular men more likely to get married? Because if you're saying,
but I don't want them to. I want them to get a sacramental marriage. Why would I try to move society towards degeneracy, to enabling degeneracy? Why would I do that? The truth is written on your heart. It is true that men and women are inclined to become married, but absent the sacrament, right? They're not living in a married lifestyle at all. They just have some bizarre state contract. It's totally meaningless. Why would I move heaven and earth and all of society to reform all of these laws on behalf of these men if they're not even going to go through with a sacrament, have an ecclesiastical authority which can govern their marriage? You're setting them up for failure. Absent that ground-based community, which you only get from the church. You can only get community building from the church. The reason most of these marriages actually fail, and Sexton he's a divorce lawyer. He's very popular all over the internet. Great guy. We've gone rounds and rounds about this. But one of the big keys, and if you read his book, you'll find this out, absent the groundswell community, there's nothing which keeps these marriages together. There's no shame. There's nothing to appeal to. It's just you and her, and that's it. And all the degeneracy of the world. Why would I move heaven and earth and try to do everything that I could to promote that? I don't want to promote that. I want to move these people out of that and into sacramental marriage so that hopefully, not even hopefully, they will, based on what you and I have already discussed, which is that the more religious you are, the less likely you are to get divorced. That's going to require sacramental marriage. That's the way forward, but that requires patriarchy. I'm not going to move laws around and advocate to move these laws around so that secularists can engage in more degeneracy. That's insane.
Okay. And again, the civil marriage thing, I think you're right there. That's something that you've kind of blown my mind on. I don't have a problem admitting that. I think from the Daily Wire perspective, they view it as pragmatically easier to encourage people who are secular to get married, have children within that state wedlock,
Great.
than it is to convert them. And
Yeah,
I think
so
I mean,
we
I'm
could
not-
say abortion is more pragmatic because you can get rid of the undesirables in society too if you wanted to. We're not interested as Christians in pragmatic solutions. We're interested as Christians in sacramental solutions and bringing people into the church of Jesus Christ, the body of Jesus Christ. In order to do that, we need to have a message which can compete with the common sense messaging of the red pill, and they ain't got it. And that's why they get destroyed. And that's why guys like me, the few of us which exist, can go out there and completely dismember both sides of the argument because we actually understand what the arguments are. These are not evil men. They're trying to get by inside of this completely degenerate world. They're looking for a solution like this. Myron would be the first to engage in ecclesiastical authority when it came to marriage and recommend that men go that route. And they know that they're immoral, absent Jesus Christ and God. But if you can't offer them a superior message, the red pill is going to beat the holy tar out of you. And that's exactly what they're doing.
I'm going to ask.
Okay, this is the next video. Yeah, I didn't do a lot of commentary on that one because he fucking that was a masterpiece. The way he fucking took her apart, beautiful. I have nothing I could add to it. So we're gonna jump into this one, and I do want to get to some Rachel debates. I'm looking at a debate between Rachel. I forgot who the person she's debating and it is, but I might be doing that one later in the week. But I do like her style too. She's not as good as Andrew, but no one is. So she's a woman, so she couldn't be as good. So
I'm 6 foot. I'm taller than most. What are you gonna do that I can't do?
Right. But
So I wanted to bring up your Nala video. What did I do that was so wrong about Nala?
Well,
I wanted to talk about this whore.
Yeah. So, this is a thing where we brought it up when I was talking to Andrew, Rachel's husband. You can find him at The Crucible, I believe is his channel. So basically, I am of the belief that if you are a new convert, you should not be in any type of leadership position at a church, especially as a woman, pastor. No.
And a woman should never have any leadership role in a church.
Yeah,
to begin with.
That's a red flag.
Yeah.
Basically, if you're going to church and just like, this is
then why were you cheering on Nala? That's weird.
the female
So
pastor.
we'd agree.
Well, hang on, but so I don't disagree with everything you said about
Okay,
her.
okay.
But basically, you had some tweets saying like Jesus won't save these hoes. And I think it's reasonable to be skeptical. And you were kind of digging on whether Nala is or is not still engaging.
She
and
raised her
stuff.
OnlyFans prices after this is confirmed. She raised her OnlyFans prices after she was saved.
Right.
I
Now-
think anything from that, she's full of shit.
Yeah, so I'm not here to. I support you trying to keep her accountable. I don't think that's a bad thing.
Then why
But
did I
guess
get
it's
a
the question-
30-minute video on me?
Well, it
Then
wasn't.
why did I don't know? It's
It
20
wasn't.
minutes.
It wasn't
I
30
didn't-
minutes
I didn't
just
watch the
on you.
whole
I was
thing.
going through a
got
bunch
it.
of tweets.
Classic
but,
woman exaggerating the numbers.
but the idea
Sorry, I'm
is,
still a woman.
Yeah, what can you do?
do you think it is possible for Christ to save someone like
it's
Nala?
possible, but I need some evidence. I need some evidence that you've done something before we put her on a show and say this woman is saved, because it's going to deter people from Christianity in the long term. If men, see they're putting OnlyFans whores as preachers in churches now. Sorry, I don't know if that's going to affect YouTube, but and so I think when someone's clearly full of shit, we got to call them out on it.
Do you not see like there could be kind of a middle ground where we say, hey, it is amazing you've come to Christ. Let us encourage you in your walk with a new Christian, while also like simultaneously not saying, hey, let's make this person our preacher.
Would you let a reformed pedophile buy kids in church? They said sorry. Would you let them buy the kids?
Buy the kids?
Buy the kid.
Near
Would you
the
let them in
kids.
the church freely? A reformed pedo.
No, I don't think you can be a reformed
So
pedophile.
why are we bringing a
But you let the hoe around your fucking husband.
reformed hoe who said she wanted to sleep with married men and loved to get them to cheat around married men? No, you put them in the back of the church. You say, why don't you show us that you actually put your money where your mouth is, do some work, and then come back?
I don't have a problem with that either. If that's
so then I shouldn't have got this video.
Well, you said Jesus can't save these hoes. That's the issue, right?
Yeah, they have to- they have to-
welcome the skepticism.
Yes, he can't save them if they're not even trying. You have to try. You can't just fake it and now he's going to save you.
To save them, they have to at least delete the OnlyFans.
Well, people
At
say
least-
she has deleted it now.
Okay, so
I
she
don't-
deleted
Oh.
it the day before the Michael Knowles interview. She was saved in December. She had 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. She raised her prices and didn't delete it till the day before. And then I'm still finding Telegram chats. And then the
someone sent
women,
me
it's like,
those, and I don't know if those look legit.
so but my point is, what you should make sure that all your shit's at least down before you come out and start preaching if you really gave a shit.
It's definitely sketchy, I would say. And I think the problem is with conservatives, like so eager and desperate to find anyone that could potentially be on their side now. Like you see Bill Maher, for instance.
Yeah.
If Bill Maher he's clearly a liberal, he'll say free speech is good, woke bad. Conservatives are like, this is our guy, even though he's like a Trump hater, clearly not conservative, a liberal.
He's just not super woke.
But-
Right,
but
we're
it's
just so
funny.
desperate. So that's why
But-
Nala was propped
But
up by
this is
everyone.
what. But I want to show what's happens, because this happens in churches all the time. Right now, you make a video defending an OnlyFans chick, but Crowder couldn't get the benefit of the doubt.
I know.
That's-
I've known Crowder for a long time. Like that's a different
Yeah,
issue.
but I
don't
know,
know
but we
Nala.
all know what she did on the internet. She was getting tag teamed by 2 dudes
And
8
that's
months
awful.
ago.
And that's
I think
awful.
you should use her. I think the idea that whether or not she's
Everyone else has.
truly reformed is immaterial to the fact that she's become a propaganda tool for virtue.
Yeah, but why would you want her to do that if she's going to go back later?
And-
What evidence, like, and this is why you have young men. I know you said some young men are going to Orthodox, but by and large, men are leaving the church.
Right,
And if you talk,
They're
she
leaving the
doesn't go
woke
back-
churches and they're going back to the really traditional, like the Roman Catholic Latin Mass, the Eastern
Yeah.
Orthodox, the really traditional, like Lutherans or Baptists are seeing.
You have to
Mormon-
make it more profitable for her to stay as a reformed individual. So if the issue is an OnlyFans hooker comes out and says, I am reformed, I have seen the light. And then prominent people say, we will never accept you, screw you. She goes, there's no light for me. I can't live this way.
she's not saved then.
I'm saying do some work. Anything. My God, could you go to a convent? I mean, she was getting tag teamed by 2 dudes. So 8 months ago. So it's like, okay, could we send her to, I don't know, some
Yeah.
She's a pastor 8 months later.
missionary or something?
And so the response from the right should be like, wow, that's
I don't know.
The
Keep her
response,
away. Keep her away from the
yes.
married men. You
The
want to
response-
write your
the
husband?
response should be-
we judge them by their works. And
Well,
I think
well,
our response should be, we accept you, but let us see the fruit of Christ within your life. And I think,
Right.
people have been critical about, well, all the millions that you've
People, you were critical.
made essentially leading young men to sin. I think it would be a great show of faith if she were to do something with that money.
Exactly.
Whether it be
Right.
charitable
be
to a
great.
church donation, something like that. Maybe even specifically a men's organization, because that's the group that she was predating on and exploiting.
And what you're communicating to young women is you can do whatever you want, say sorry, and here's your media
Yeah,
career.
that's
Have
that
fun.
is the Catholic Church. That's right. You can go and ask for forgiveness, and if you truly mean it, it is
and
granted
then
to you.
you get
You can be on stage at TPUSA. Won't that be great?
Be advocating for
and-
women to try to change their lives, right? I agree. It's
well.
fake,
I don't have a problem with women changing their lives. What I find offensive actually is using Christianity as a grift.
I
And
totally
that's-
agree.
And I just find that offensive.
Except
And-
that, yeah, and I agree with you,
Yeah.
but I would say if people begin to believe that the better grift is not in being a hooker, but being
Yeah.
a Christian, that's winning the culture war.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
and I think you could argue that, but those women tend to be so damaged, they tend to do the same thing. And what you see over long periods of time is now you have predatory women.
That'd be great. A bunch of porn producers at church. They're just there because it's trendy. Yeah, that's not the reason you want them there.
in the church.
No, I agree.
And
I
then
agree.
oftentimes young men that don't know better end up marrying these chicks.
And so I would agree with you on that capacity. I'm just saying, at the very least, her attempt at this grift, if it is a grift, shows that she believed the right side of history and the profitable side of history is virtue, not degeneracy. It doesn't mean she's not a degenerate. It just means she's being like, ooh, there's more money over here. That's a good sign.
My argument is I think it's funny how conservatives give an OnlyFans whore the benefit of the doubt, but they won't do that for Steven Crowder.
I agree with that.
And I see that same pattern of behavior.
Well,
And
I
the
feel
reason,
that
and I
way with
see
An-
that,
I mean,
and
I
I
know
see
Crowder,
that
so that's
same,
like a
and
whole
I
thing.
see
But
that same pattern of behavior at churches across the country. I see
feel
these
that way
same.
with Andrew Tate, right? Andrew Tate is someone who he got rich, webcam industry. There's some people who are still very, very against him for being a pornography peddler. He has since, he's Muslim now. He hasn't really he basically still believes like I did what I had to do. I had no money. So he hasn't really apologized for it. But at the same time, that's not the same person who he is today. But you still have conservatives who are like, they basically blacklisted him because of that. Meanwhile, Nala, they're like open arms. Now, I think that maybe it's not the direct comparison because Andrew Tate is not a Christian. He is Muslim. But I do see that you have a point there. They're way more open to Nala changing than someone like Andrew Tate changing.
Simps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have this idea. We have this idea that women are born angelic and innocent until some bad man somewhere does something to her to make
To be fair, Tate doesn't have titties like Nala.
her become a bad lady, and then she can reform and we all clap and it's great. There's no grace for men like that. Like when men change their ways, they used to be degenerate in some way, and then they come to Christianity. There's not as much applause. They don't usually do a podcasting tour. They don't usually come out with merch, and all this other stuff because we're seeing this as a trend, right? These ex-strippers, ex-OnlyFans girls coming to Christ. But my problem with it is it always comes with, donate to my ministry. Here's my Cash App.
Let me
Buy my
sell
Jesus Loves You
rosaries for
shirt.
$200.
Right,
I'm like, why can't you just read the Bible?
Like traditionally in my church, when we had Saint Mary of Egypt was one of our most famous and most venerated saints because she was probably the depths of degeneracy for a woman. She was like a prostitute. She was a nympho. And when she converted, she did not start a podcasting tour or a ministry or, something where you had to give her money. It was nothing like that. She went into the desert alone for decades and just like prayed and became very virtuous privately.
Yeah.
And generally what our church traditionally has prescribed for women who come from that level of degeneracy is something more like a monastic path or something where, they have to take a lot of time because it's not something you just flip a switch and now I'm good. It's like it takes a long
Can I
time
say
through
one
the
more
program.
thing? Can I say one more
process.
thing that I find annoying? I'm just going to put this out there. These people, these OnlyFans whores, keep like, oh, Pearl, I'll pray for you. I'm like, what did I do? I just said words you don't like. You got tag teamed by two dudes.
Like, I'll pray for you.
And I'm like, you can take your prayers and shove them because I know what you're saying.
They got real mad at me when I called them hookers. That actually
Oh, that was such a
The
funny
ho
tweet.
pronouns. You got the ho pronouns wrong.
Well, because there was a woman and she was like, how dare you call my friend a hooker, which there's nothing wrong with at all. Then I'm like, then it's not an insult, it's a description. Like, she could have been like, I think you are misdescribing my friend. Instead, it was like outrage. It appeared in a Hulu documentary. I'm like, dude, I think OnlyFans is just today's version of hooking.
Yeah.
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 You go to a like,
Virtual hooking.
there-
Yeah.
When they didn't have the photograph, a guy would have to go to a building to find a woman to get a show, a burlesque show or something. Now, women are going on OnlyFans. And I would say people are asking, like, what's the difference between like stripping and OnlyFans? Why would you call that hooking? Because of the personal relationship that people think they're getting.
Yeah.
You go on the app and you think you're talking to this woman and she's giving you your pleasure and your titillation for money. I do want to clarify, though, there
Those dudes are gay. They know they're talking to a dude and they don't give a fuck. They're gay.
was some survey where they asked men, knowing that the majority of these OnlyFans, they call them models. Ridiculous.
I know.
So I'll just say this. Knowing the survey asked guys, do you care that you're actually sexting and having perverse conversations with men who are being paid to do it? They said, no, I don't care.
Wow.
Men didn't care. They were like, doesn't matter to me.
Because porn makes men gay.
It does.
Yeah,
It
it
really
does.
does.
There's
It
actually an
does.
article on my Substack about how I think that happened. But this is Schrodinger's feminist, right? Women are strong and empowered when they're OnlyFans models. But also, if you call them a hooker, now she's an innocent victim and you're mean because you're a
You're
man.
probably emotionally abusive if you say that.
I think women are more sexual than men. And the reason I think that is because when media is catered to women, it's like pretty much sexuality is at the core of
Yeah.
it. So even
Call
we
her
were
daddy.
talking about
Name
podcasts
one
earlier.
pop star who's not a sexual.
Yeah, and as the
person.
media becomes more
Female
female
pop star.
focused, it becomes way more sexual. Where
Well, I
men,
would
it's
say
like
women get their
men-
power from sex. Like,
Yeah.
that's how they
Yeah,
get into the rooms.
yes,
They
yeah.
sleep with their bosses. They get this information. Like, that's really the only thing that women have above men is because women control the access to sex.
Right.
So men need to not have sex with these women because that's what's giving these hoes the power.
But,
But what I
most,
love
but, most,
about-
but most men can't, and that's the problem. Is women get sexual access from a much younger age, and they sleep with a small percentage of men. So most men are not sleeping around. So
I'm gonna disturb that little talking point. I think most men could. I just think most men are too nice to do the shit they would have to do to get laid. Right? I think a lot of guys try to be nice, and that's why they're not fucking getting laid. sometimes you just got to go for it.
It's like, again, we put the onus on what, 5-10% of men that get sexual access at a young age. And then it's like conservatives tell men, well, you guys are the bad guys for sleeping around. And the men get to like 22, they look for a wife. None of the women want to be wives. They don't want to marry him. And so you're saying, okay, don't have sex till what, they're 30?
Yeah.
Good luck.
This is
Well,
another
tough
big
sell.
problem, right?
Tough
With
sell.
the trad con right, the Christian right, telling everybody, well, men and women both should be virgins until they get married. It's like, but people don't get married till 30, 31.
Yeah. And that's women. And that's women
here's
picking it.
here's the other big thing we need to think about. Women, even good Christian virtuous women, don't want virgin men. I wish they did, but they don't. If a man makes it to 25 as a virgin, even like the really nice girls at church
Facts.
generally don't want him. They still want the player, the guy that has experience. Because the other women, it's like a signal we send to each other as women that he's successful, he's worthwhile because all the other women want him
Well,
too.
I don't think it's that Christian women don't want virgin men. Christian women want men who are highly sought after by other women. So what you would want is like the Chad
Followers.
like Deus Vult, kind of Knights Templar Christian guy with the big jaw who is literally like,
I've watched a girl start liking a guy just because other girls liked him. Nothing else. Nothing changed about him. Just the fact that other women found him attractive made her find him attractive. They're followers, the lemmings.
he has all these women and he's just like stoically trying to push them away,
Yeah.
but he manages to like succumb to your
Good
temptation.
luck.
I think that
literally
worked when we all
the-
got married at 18 or 20.
Yeah,
I
that
think
is
that
literally,
worked,
like, the-
but it's
the
not gonna-
fantasy.
if you're telling all the women that you must, and this is what happened to me, right? I was a smart kid. I was always in like advanced classes, and it was like, I'm going to college. I was told from kindergarten, you're going to college, you're gonna have a career.
Yeah.
And when I decided I didn't want to do that, and I had my first child at 20, everyone around me, even my Christian conservative women around me who should have been supportive, were like, oh no, what a tragedy. Rachel will never be anything. Her life is over. She's a loser now. She's never going to do anything with all of her gifts because she's just a mom. And this is the overwhelming propaganda that we've had for like 60 years now, telling women, young girls, if you want to be a good girl and be successful, focus on school, go to college, even if that means the average woman graduates with $40,000 in debt, and then spend your 20s building your career so that, because why? Because you're vulnerable if you don't have your own money. If you depend on your husband for income, that makes you vulnerable to abuse, and you should be scared.
We also have to look.
Also makes it harder to find a man because a lot of men don't want to sign up for your $40,000 a day.
Look at what women choose and want to do. We have the freedom to do anything that we want.
That's
and
true.
Unfortunately, women are picking to be whores. Like
Well,
that's
another-
and under 35,
Yeah.
and people will dispute what exactly the number is. But anecdotally I would say a quarter of women have done some sort of sex work, whether it's escorting. And I know-
seems high.
and there's more.
It's 100% if you factor in the ones that have sex just for the benefits of dating, right? Men pay for all the dates. Men take you out. Men pay for everything. So that's partially for money too if you're doing it just for that, right?
More
All women.
OnlyFans models than teachers right now. They tried to community notes me on this, but I have it. Dr. David Baker, you can look it up. And this is
But the
and
thing with
the thing is,
OnlyFans
and
is
what you'll
that's
find and what you'll find with
worldwide.
a lot of female stats is stats that make women look bad are always it's always under exaggerated how bad women are. Like, for example, the CDC says the average body count is 5 to 8 for women. But if I survey men and say 5 to 8, they're like, that would be a miracle. And it's like, if you survey 1,000 people and you're actually in the field getting feedback from people,
Fav's a virgin now. Just so you know, if you get a girl who's only been with 5 dudes, she's growing a second hymen because she's a virgin now.
it's a different picture.
But I feel like there is selection bias there, right? Because there's the statisticians,
No.
there's an entire absolutely.
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant for me. Keep going.
Oh
keep
no,
going. Sorry, I'm listening.
Statisticians, like trying to get a sample that's actually representative of the general population is something that people spend. Like Scott Rasmussen has made an entire career, launched several companies over his ability to accurately sample. So I mean, I'm not saying that there aren't areas like London, Miami, where absolutely girls are talking about like 10 to 15, and that's just seen as the norm. But I don't think it's fair to kind of extrapolate that to also like this small rural Midwestern town.
But
It's the
even so,
same.
the issue that you're going to get, especially with younger women now, is that they're moving to the big cities. Like I had a chick on my show. She was a virgin from the
Every girl on whatever, when they ask body count, if they're brave enough to say it, They're like 250, 300. These are like 20-year-old girls. What hope do you have if all the younger girls coming up are fucking like that? You're just going to get a hoe. That's all that's left.
Middle of nowhere. Do you know where she lives now?
London.
Miami.
Oh.
Worst place.
Oh no.
I like her. No offense.
even
If you're watching this, no offense. But it's like she's doing the same moves that even more promiscuous woman would. And she was the only out of 1,000 women. I think I believed maybe 2 that they were virgins.
Well,
maybe
Pearl, when
2,
you say
yeah.
that women we've had the choice for over 100 years now
Yeah.
to do what we want, even aside from sex work. If you look at the top 20 most commonly held careers in 2020 versus 1920, they are almost the same for women.
Yeah.
The only thing that changed that was a big change was we swapped out farm labor for HR work.
But
Other than that, women still
well, I
are
just think-
secretaries, nurses, teachers, daycare workers,
Yeah.
administrative assistants. We're doing all the same stuff we did before, only now we get to pay taxes. We have to put our kids in daycare. You pay half what you make to the daycare lady. Just some other random lady's gonna raise your kids instead of you. I remember thinking this when I was 20. What a stupid, inefficient system. Who came up with this? Why do I have to bring my baby to some other lady, pay her half what I make so that she can do the job I want to be doing so I can go to my corporate job and pretend I give a shit
And like
about it?
serve your corporate boss instead of your husband.
Yes,
And then
exactly.
I really think that women should pretty much never leave the home. I think when a woman is in the workplace, you have male coworkers, you build friendships, you're mad at your husband, you want to vent to the people around you. I literally never
your
leave
work
my house.
husband.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
my husband and I are always home. He works from home too. So I'm always with him. I never see anyone else. The only men I see is like men from church, his family, our family, and I'm always with him. And I just think like there's such a gateway for cheating. Divorce rates will rise, and also when women make their own income, they like feminism tells them you will be unsafe if you don't have your own assets.
Right.
Then they feel more empowered to get divorced. It's great that I fully rely on my husband to support our family, because what would I do if I wasn't with him? Like, and we're not married legally. We're married just in the church because the legal system does affect men in a terrible way.
But the issue we're going to get into is that men are punished for being traditional by the court system, because the man, if he has a stay-at-home wife, he's more of a target.
True.
And I talked to one of the guys that like calculates child support, and he said if you want to like have the minimal amount of risk, you need a chick that earns what you earn. And it does have the problems you described, but I'm saying, if we want traditional outcomes.
How are you going to get a chick that earns what you earn? You have to beat her in everything. You have to be taller, better looking, funnier, smarter, make more money. You have everything. You can't find a girl who just makes what you make. That doesn't exist.
We have to reward
Not for
them, and
dating.
right now we don't.
And that's what sucks, because
Yeah.
there's pros and cons to everything, and you're never going to have a foolproof system.
Right.
And actually, if you do look at child custody laws, and when it comes to parental rights, dads actually have more rights if they're married to the mother, because if they aren't, they have all these extra steps and hurdles they have to go through. They have to prove the paternity. They have to do all these
If you're
things.
married, it's assumed paternity.
So
over
yeah,
you.
but that's so I thought that too, and I actually after I think Trent Horn said that during our debate, and so I asked like the guy that calculates child custody, and you can sign the birth certificate. I can't remember the exact name, but there's something guys can sign to get the same rights.
Okay,
So,
so
yeah,
that's beneficial.
and-
But even
and-
if they're not married, they still have to pay child support.
You can sign a form to where they're not even born as a bastard. It counts them as like something else. Like you're signing some kind of form, because I had to sign one for my daughter because I wasn't marrying that crazy bitch that had her. So I had to fill out one of these forms because they said if you don't, your kid will be a bastard. So there's a form you fill out for that.
Which I agree. Child
Yeah,
support's
and if
awful.
they're in California, for example, like you get after 20 years or something, you get on alimony, and the years that from my research, divorces have popped up. It's 5 years, 13 years, 21, and 24.
Yeah, well, the divorce courts just screw men over. I mean, it's awful. No wonder why marriage
It's
rates.
kidnapping. You
Yeah.
can legally kidnap a child. And I talk to men it's crazy. The worst ones are military. Military guys have
yeah.
it so bad.
And they have pretty
this
high
is-
divorce rates as well.
And to
just
think
being
about
in
how
the
many men
military.
have committed suicide in the last 50 years. Over 400,000 men have committed suicide. And from my research, roughly 70% have had contact with family court in the last 5 years. This is literally killing men, and nobody cares. And they just say, men, man up and marry anyway. And I just think it's a poor solution. The courts have to change first.
And see, like if we're going to be talking about like,
Based.
okay, what are issues or what are the solutions here? Because we've been talking a lot about issues. So Pearl, do you think the focus should just be on changing the laws?
Yeah, I think that's got to happen first, because regardless of what I say, I'm just some random chick with opinions, I mean, I can't change the laws. I think regardless of what I say, young men are looking at the market and they're saying, okay, the young women my age, one, they don't want to date me. Two, they have incredibly high standards. The quality is lower than ever before. And if I want to get married, generally they're going to have to compromise on something. And then they're going to look at
I can tell you what you're going to have to compromise with. If you're trying to date a woman over 30, get ready to date a fat girl, because that's all that's out there. Women have gotten so fucking fat.
risk that goes with
had to
it,
say
and many
that.
men just aren't going to do it. I had one guy in California or in Texas, $1.5 million he spent on his divorce. He sees his kid every other weekend. California, he spent $300,000 trying to get his kid back. His kid speaks another language. He hasn't seen him in 3 years. He doesn't even speak the same language as his kid. These are common, especially military, because military will go for like 8 months at a time. So many military men come back, their wife is gone, all their stuff is gone, and people will say, oh, just, it's your fault because you picked the wrong woman. Oh, you didn't, like, okay, he was gone for 8 months. And a lot of those men end up homeless.
So you think, would you agree with Jordan Peterson on enforced monogamy?
What is his opinion on it?
It was misconstrued for sure by the woke corporate press. They painted this picture of like fat incels, neckbeards
getting assigned
right.
women.
He meant socially it should be a cultural pressure that there was monogamy, that society doesn't look fondly on people who are promiscuous or polyamorous and things like that. So basically if people feared cancel, like imagine cancel culture. You got emails being like, you're a degenerate, how could you cheat on your wife or your husband? And people were like, no, I could not get a divorce, I'll lose my job, that kind of thing.
Well, I don't think that'll happen.
Well, I'm not saying I think it'll happen either. I'm just saying, like,
I think women.
Do you agree that society should be structured in that way?
I liked Myron had a tweet recently that said that women that cheat on their military husbands when they're deployed should face jail time. I like that.
I don't think that's far-fetched.
No,
I don't.
and that's the thing. Like, military men have it so bad.
You're
They have
like
it
literally compromising the national security by doing that.
Jail
sort of stuff.
yeah, jail time.
Maybe not jail
It's
time,
tough, 'cause
but
I know that I
don't have a
disagree.
problem.
Fuck no, jail time.
Yeah.
Well, because they're getting paid. When a man or woman joins the army, if they get married, you get base housing.
Right.
So what
Yeah.
happens though is they come back from the military, and what they'll do is the women will go to court and say, I've been raising the kid for 8 months. It's in the best interest of the child to stay with me.
Yeah.
Well, he's been serving our country for 8 months. How is that fair? And a lot of times women also, they can get restraining orders. So like me and you get into a fight, I get a restraining order, right? And then I can go to court and say, oh, he hasn't been with the kid in 3 months.
Andrew had a woman on his show last week this is her words. She said when she graduated.
I went through a custody battle for my daughter, and I had a restraining order put on me. And then when we went to court, she tried to claim I abandoned my kid because I didn't call and violate the restraining order. That's how crazy they are.
Graduated high school and realized she was going to have to pay her own bills. She kind of freaked out and married her high school boyfriend because he was going into the military and was going to have this reliable income. But, several years down the line, he's getting deployed all the time. He's always busy, and he didn't pay enough attention to her. So she divorced him.
Yeah, well, seriously, ask. I was just at and this is what you start to notice patterns. Ask any military guy if he knows someone that has a divorce horror story. They all do.
Yeah. Sorry, I was going to say, like, I myself, and I know a lot of other women who would flat out just not date anyone actively in the military.
I know a guy who had to pay alimony to a chick who cheated on him. So he had to pay her because she got caught fucking around on him.
Because you have to assume they're going to get deployed. So if you're going into a relationship with someone and that, like, attention is important to you, what are you thinking? Like, it's their job. They have to.
Sorry, adultery is illegal in the military.
Oh, good. Oh.
But I don't know if that applies to women or.
The issue is there's so many workarounds with this
So is hiring illegal immigrants. If you don't enforce the law, then it doesn't really matter.
stuff. Like, they changed the definition of abuse to include That's why I say it's feminist language, because abuse used to be a man hitting a woman, and then they expand. Like, that's what women do first, is they change the definition of words.
Now it's just telling her you won't give her any more money for her Etsy fucking store.
So it used to be abuse. Now we have emotional abuse, financial abuse, and there's just so many loopholes, and it's so confusing that women can really use the system to steal children.
Yeah.
from men.
What's-
And then that causes every problem in society, homelessness,
Yeah.
school shooters, because women are raising men.
Yeah.
And that's just not good for society.
Well, in Quebec, which is, I mean, probably the most socially liberal part of Canada, which is already socially liberal, they have done a lot of. They're basically, it's one of those places where no one gets married, people cohabitate. It's so feminist in Quebec that you actually legally cannot take your husband's last name if you are in Quebec.
Wow.
You can change your name to whatever you want it, but if you're married and a wife, you cannot take your husband's last name. They
All right, this is turning into the View. So I wanted to get the beginning part because she went after her a little bit, but Pearl's really kind. Like, I would have been so much more harsh on her for the shit she did, but Pearl kind of let her slide a little bit. But she did get her a little bit, so I wanted to show it just for context. I do plan on doing more Pearl stuff and more Rachel stuff, so stick by, and I'll be back tomorrow. Should have one tomorrow. If not, it'll be here Wednesday. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. So let's just say peace.